Hi, I'm Aidan. I have an idea for an app, and in this screencast, I'm going to share the experience of creating a prototype from scratch. And I figured it's going to take about 30 minutes or so. I have an hour to kill because my fiance and my daughter is out on a walk, so I'm going to have to be pretty quick about this. So this is inspired by Pluralsight's play-by-play series, where they invite developers and they got they give them a problem or they give them an idea for an app, and they start developing it from scratch, and they share the thoughts, and they motivate the decisions, so and things like that. And I thought, why not share my process and thoughts when designing and coding an app? And hopefully I'll get some good feedback from the community. So the idea I have is to measure meeting costs. I don't know how many times I've been at meetings and wondering, like, what am I doing here? What are all these people doing here? We're not contributing with anything. And thinking, like, how much is this costing the company? So I came up with this great idea for this great name for this app called, I think I'm going to call it a Meetometer. It's like a taximeter, just for meetings instead. So I want this to be a mobile web app, should be really easy to use. And for this prototype, I'm just going to do the client side. I'm not going to do any server side coding. I'm not going to create a database or something like that. So and hopefully we'll get this demo up and running in Azure, and the code will be published as open source on my GitHub account. And if you Google my name, or if you want to get in touch with me, you get the same info, but you got it here in the screencast as well. So let's get started. Visual Studio is definitely my preferred IDE. Sometimes I use WebStorm as well, Sublime, but I'm gonna go with Visual Studio and create an empty ASP.NET project. So empty is really empty. We don't have anything except a web config. So I know I'm gonna want to use jQuery. Let's install that. And I'm gonna take the 1.10.2 version. And usually I'll add Bootstrap. I think I'm using Twitter Bootstrap for my last 10 or so projects. But I was browsing the web the other day, and I noticed that jQuery Mobile just came out with a 1.4 version. So I think I'm gonna give that one a try. I've had some really nasty experience with jQuery Mobile before, but let's hope they fixed some of the problems. Okay, so I see the NuGet package isn't updated with the latest version, so we're gonna need to go and get this ourselves. We uninstall it. Yeah, we're gonna grab the entire source. While that's downloading. Oh, it's already downloaded. Nice. Okay, so let's add this to our project. Meetometer. Right. So we'll add the CSS that we'll need. Let's see here. Let's grab these ones. And the JS files. I think I missed the map file, yeah. Right. Also, I'm gonna add a default HTML site page. Yeah, I'm gonna install Angular as well. Angular is an MVVM framework. I'm just gonna want the core parts. I also tried the Randall. It's basically the same thing. I'm more comfortable with Angular, so I'm gonna use that. Okay, so now we have our frameworks and infrastructure set up. So let's include the files we need. When I develop, I don't include the min file just yet because it's really hard to tell what's wrong from the error messages that it produces. But for jQuery, sure, jQuery mobile. Let's also add the CSS to the top. I'm gonna call it meter. Alright, so let's run this. Okay, so we got a clean page, no errors, sweet. We haven't actually done anything yet. So let's go to the demo sites and get a page running. Pages. Yeah, we're gonna want to add the viewport scaling meta. They have a whole here we go. Right. Yeah, I don't know why they keep insisting on having these comments. Let's skip the footer part. Right, so we have a page. Let's hook up Angular as well. So what I like to do is to create a folder called app. And this is going to be a fairly small app, so I'm not going to do that much infrastructure here. I think I'm just going to add the JavaScript file. Usually when the app's pretty big, I'll divide them into features and have controllers and directives folder for each feature, but I think we're good keeping it simple for this prototype. Angular, we're gonna create a module. I'm typing on my laptop keyboard, so please bear with me as I type wrong every other line of code. Okay, so we created an app, and let's initialize it. Let's see if Angular works. Okay, so this should, okay, so we have an error. Right, we haven't included our JavaScript file. Due to misspelling, model app is not available. Okay. We didn't save the file. Sweet, now it works. Alright, so let's hook this up with our controller as well. We'll just call it meeting controller. And I usually like to do this to get the app resolved as a parameter to the function. And now just let's define our controller. Should be a function. Also, when creating real-world apps and large applications, I use TypeScript, but for this prototype, I figured I'd just freebase and write plain old JavaScript. And we want to register this controller. Yeah, we're gonna want some dependencies here. We want the scope. And let's define a number. Should be 2 plus 2, just to see that it's running. And let's set the controller, ng controller, meeting controller. Let's print out the number instead. Whoops, once again I forgot to include the JavaScript file. Meeting controller is not a function, okay. Yeah. Let's be consistent. Right. Sweet, so we got a controller as well. Okay. So what I usually do is go ahead and create some data from the domain model, try to mock the UI, but I think I'm gonna do the UI first because I have a pretty firm idea of how I want this app to work. I just want to see what the jQuery mobile can do for me. So I'm thinking we're gonna have a slider where we can choose how many persons are in the meeting, and then another slider where you set the average salary, and then we'll have like a count showing how much does it cost for every second. It keeps ticking, and then we can start, stop, and reset the meter. Okay, so the jQuery mobile page. Let's find the slider. Yeah, so this looks pretty good. Let's grab that. We want 2 sliders. People in meeting. Right. Let's say the default value is 10. We're gonna bind this up with Angular later, but let's not do that just yet. And we have the average salary slider. Right. I'm thinking 100,000 a month. Is that enough? I'm going to define a step here. Step with 1,000. I'm thinking crowns, so this will be reasonable. I think the default step is 1, but let's set it. Average salary, good. Nice. $40,000. Sweet. Okay, and then I want to display how much does this meeting cost. So let's do that. I'll just mark something. I don't know, 1,000 SEK for now. Probably want to. I'm not going to do a CSS file just yet, so please just bear with me here. You're probably screaming at the screaming at the screen now, but I'm gonna do this anyhow. So we center that. Then we want some buttons. Button like start something. No, jQuery Mobile has some grid system. I think we're gonna try to use that. Buttons and grids, excellent. Yeah, this looks good. So let's do that. I don't know if this is responsive. I thought they've... No. Okay, so do they have anything else? Yeah, responsive. Let's copy paste that. So what I've seen at Pluralsight when developers do this live coding, they try to write everything themselves, and they get the classes wrong, and they get stuff wrong all the time, and just takes so much time. So what I like to do is just use the documentation, copy paste what you want, and yeah, you're good to go. Yeah, sweet. Okay, so let's do this a button. And skip the... We don't need an icon for now. Okay, so we'll do the start, stop perhaps, and stop the count and reset it. And if we see if this really is responsive, yeah. Alright, nice. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. I'm gonna go with this for now. So let's start writing some code. First of all, I'm gonna hook these buttons up. When you click them, something should happen, right? So we'll do that with ng-click. Let's do start. Yeah, I really like to copy paste a lot. It really saves me. I don't know if it saves me that much time, but I like to think so. So we can start and stop. So let's define these on our controller. We can remove the number now. Also, we want our people. Let's say 5. These to be properties as well. Scope, average salary. I don't know, let's do 35,000 crowns. Let's define the functions that will be called. Stop, reset. Stop, reset. Right. Let's do it like this instead. Refresh, start, stop, reset. Excellent. So we have hooked up these buttons, and you probably don't want to be able to press start twice. So let's keep track of if we're running. Scope running. Default should be false. And once we start, set it true. When we stop, we'll set it to false. And also let's have a cost. Oops. Cost property. There will be reset. Yeah, so I need to bind the ng disabled to, if it's running, it should be disabled, and if it's not running, this button should be disabled. Right, so we can start and we can stop. Sweet, so the UI gets updated. Okay, so what we want now is to actually calculate the cost. Right, so let's render cost here. And so when we start, we want to run a timer that will calculate the cost and accumulate it every second. So I'm gonna use the timeout for that. I don't actually remember the syntax for it, so let's check it out. Angular timeout. Yeah, so we specify a function and the delay, right? Yeah, we'll get back the promise. So we can cancel the timer from running again. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll define a tick as a function. And this will return a cancel promise. So let's store that. So cancel promise will be timeout, then pass it a function that will be called, and we want to run every second. So here we'll do stuff, and after we want to do this again. So let's name this function to work, and we'll do this again until we stop. So timeout, passing work, right, so what can we do here? Let's just do scope.cost. Let's just increase cost. Don't do any calculations yet. And on start, we'll invoke tick. On stop, we'll just, what was it called? We cancel. Yeah, so timeout, cancel, and pass in the promise. Right. So with luck, we'll be able to, yeah, sweet. Right. So this doesn't really depend on the values in the sliders yet, but it will do soon. So how do we calculate the cost? Let's do this really simple. So let's define a function, calc cost. If this were knockout, I'd use some kind of, I'll use a computer observable, but I don't know what you do in Angular, so we'll just do it as a function instead. So we'll return the number of people times the average salary and we'll want to get the cost each second since we're taking every second, right? So we have, I know there's 22 days, work days in a month approximately, so 22 times 8-hour day, we got 176 hours, right? So divided by 60 to get minutes and by 60 again to get seconds, right? So I can simplify it by just multiplying them here. So it's some pretty basic math. So the cost will be increased every second with the calculated function here, right? So let's try this out. Okay, so we will probably want to do something about the formatting, but if we increase the number of people, it should increase faster. If we do this. Okay, so I think it does that, because if we do that, no, it doesn't really seem to be doing much, right? Okay, so yeah, of course we haven't hooked up these sliders with the actual value on the controller. Right, so I can show you this awesome debugging tool. We'll be able to see that we use it. So here we can, I think it's called Batarang. So we can see our model is bound to, and that nothing actually happens when we pull the sliders, right? So that's why. Let's do something about the formatting as well. I think you can say it's currency. Yeah, so we get dollars. Yeah, okay. Angular format currency. Excellent. Okay, so we can pass the symbol. Right. Let's just get rid of the currency. Right, sweet. And let's bind the value. Let's do it like this. ng model is gonna be, was it people? And then ng model average salary, right? So we obviously have some problems with the binding. Okay, so we're gonna address that later, but for now, let's see that this works. Yeah, I can see that the model gets updated. except for the, alright, misspelled people. Right, to still have some UI problems there, but let's get so the cost becomes null for some reason. Okay, so we'll take a look at that as well. Okay. Right, so this is the interesting problems that you run into as a developer, right? So let's see if this has something to do with a binding, because it works initially, right? No, it doesn't. What if I don't format it as currency? Okay, so it's null. Let's define this on the scope instead. Right. Still null. Yeah, it's the misspelling. Alright. Okay, finally. So it wasn't the formatting. Let's get that back. Start it. Okay, so now you can see that it responds to the sliders. It should stop there, right? 100 people having an average salary of nothing. Still be nothing to increase it. Sweet, so we get that one working. Nice, so we're almost there for our 0.1 prototype version. So you probably want to save these settings in local storage, so you don't have to enter them every time and get the default values. So for local storage, I like to use a JS library called Amplify. See how much time we have. They aren't home yet, so I'm gonna keep on coding. Let's get Amplify, install it. Angular Amplify. Let's add them in. Alright, and let's create a service for storage. Storage service, perhaps. Also, again, define it in a closed scope. Get parameter from another file. Copy pasting as always. So let's create a storage service. Should be a function. And register it as a factory in Amplify, in Angular. Storage service. Right, so we'll create our storage, return our storage, and yeah, right, so this should work. Let's pass it into the controller as a dependency. storage service. We'll get the storage service here. And yeah, let's not forget that this time we'll include the storage service JS. Right. So let's see that we don't have any errors, that we haven't broken anything. Still works, sweet, but we don't store anything yet. So in the storage service, we'll have a method called get settings. And Amplify is really easy to use, so let's get the settings from Amplify from the store, and here we specify a key. So let's create a key. Let's see, meter settings key, perhaps. Let's give the same value. Right, so if this is the first time getting the settings, we won't have any. My bad. So return settings. But then we want the default values that we've set in the controller, right? So then we'll do something like people correctly spelled 5, and average salary of 35. Let's do 40 to see that anything happens, changes. Like that, so we'll get the settings from there now. And in the meeting controller, we get the settings, and we have something called people, and we call it average salary as well. Right, so now we get it from the store, but we don't actually save anything yet. We'll get there. Can't read property people of undefined people. So if we don't have it right, there we get the new values. And we want to watch these variables. When they change, we want to update the store. So let's write that piece of code. Scope. So we'll watch people. And what do? We want to save the settings, right? So we'll create that function later. It's probably a more efficient way to watch two variables to do the same thing, but let's do it this way for now. Save settings. And what do we want to do then? Yeah, so we're gonna want to save the settings, right? And we'll pass in an object with the new settings. And in a storage service, we're gonna define a new method, storage, called save settings. We'll take in an object with the settings. We're just gonna do amplify store in the meter settings key. Yeah, we're gonna pass an object as well, of course. So this way we store it, and we'll read it just by passing in the key. Okay, so let's see if this works. Let me just check it one more time. Alright. So with luck, we should be able to pull the slider to something else. No errors, sweet. When we refresh the site, we have the new values, but the slider seems not to be updated with the correct value. So this is a problem when using Angular together with jQuery Mobile. And there is an adapter project, but I think we're just going to write a simple directive to solve this ourselves, since it's not that much code to write. Okay, so what we'll do is create a directive. Let's put it in the directives.js file. Copy some code from the storage service, except we'll get rid of all that. And then I'll actually remember how to write directives. But let's look it up in the API documentation. So let's do something like slider init the directive. Should be a function. Slider init. So how do we write directives? I know that we should use something called link. Yeah, and let's see here. If you want to modify the DOM, typically use link option, right? So let's see an example. So return a function, an object with a link function on it, right? So whoops, how was it? Okay, let's just see if this gets hit. Log my directive. Before we write any more code, let's see that the syntax is correct. And we'll need to include a directive as well, and try to use it. What was it called? Slider init. Yeah, so the convention is that you register it with camel casing and you use it with dashes without the camel casing. See, so we have an error. Cannot read properly compile. Okay, so we'll probably done this part wrong. Let's just, you get blinded when you do some live coding, so let's try to do it exactly their way. We'll adjust like that, then we'll return. All right. So I think we just needed to do this. This is wrong. Formatting is really bad, so bear with me as I fix it. right. Oh yeah, so my directive was logged, so it's working. Sweet, so we got the syntax correct, and now we just want to re-init or refresh the slider once the value gets binded. So the way we'll do this is by getting the model from the attributes. There's a property called ngModel. So let's evaluate that. So, and we want to listen on this model changed. And once it gets changed, once it gets a value, we want to refresh the jQuery slider, mobile slider, right? So we'll use the scope to watch this variable. We'll watch model. The listener will get a new value and an old value. So, and watch will return a promise on watch that can be used to unregister this watch. So once we have, if we get a new value, then we want to re-init and on watch. So I don't do this too many times. Okay, so how do we re-init? I think we just do element slider, I think it's called that one, and pass refresh. Okay, so let's see if this works. Yeah, and we didn't use the directive for this other slider, but we can see that the first slider actually gets updated with correct value. Sweet. So I'll just throw this new directive onto the other slider. And as you probably already know, I've gotten into this problem before, so I knew how to tackle it. But the first time it was really a headache. So I think this is pretty shippable for a prototype. So I think I'm gonna consider myself done and publish this to Azure. Also, let's do one more thing. Let's bundle these with Web Essentials. Create JavaScript bundle, call it app, and replace these includes with the minified app version. Okay, module app is not available, so it's something with a. Let's do this first. Save. Look at the min. Okay, so app. So I don't know why this shouldn't work. All right, sweet. So now we have the minified version, and let's also go ahead and include the minified version of Angular. Yeah, sure. Just close all other files. Right, and in a real-world application, we'll probably go ahead and get these from a CDN, but I'm not going to do it for this screencast. So let's publish this to Azure. Manage, let's see here, manage Azure. If I have a slow connection or something, it takes forever. Alright, so let's create a new website. Quick website, quick create. We'll call it Meter. So it's available, and it is. North Europe. I'm gonna use my BizSpark account, sure. So now it's creating my website, and I'm gonna try to use web publishing from getting the profile from this site. I haven't actually used this before, so this is the first time. So where do you get download publish profile? Right, so we have the publish settings here. Let's try to publish this. Seems to have everything correct, right? Release, sure, why not? We'll just try it. Alright, so the app is up and running. We can see there's something wrong still with the directives. We have some initialization bug, but I'm not going to address that in this screencast. So yeah, so you can go ahead and try this. I'm actually going to see how it works in Windows Mobile, because that's usually the worst experience for jQuery Mobile so far. So I'm going to publish this code on GitHub. I'm going to do that now, but let's do a git init. Or do I even have git here? No, it's the wrong console. Yeah, I'm going to do this later. Okay, so we'll open up IE. Use the keyboard, meter, Azure websites. Is it .net? I don't remember. No. Azure, meter, Azure websites.net. Okay, so why didn't it work? It could be the emulator, or I just misspelled it. Let's try it once again. Meter.Azure websites.net. Alright, sweet. So let's do something like that. We are 10 people in the meeting. Start a counter. Alright, so seems to work. So that's all for now, and I hope you enjoyed this, and feel free to get back to me with comments and thoughts, what I could have done differently or better. So have a nice New Year's Eve, since it's December 29th today. So that's it from me now. Alright, so this was my first podcast or screencast. So please keep that in mind when you when you give me feedback or criticism. Bye.